here, I think, because you want to learn about how do you grow longer in Wyoming, correct? Correct. Yeah, right? Okay. All right. Well, we'll try to do this. So a little bit about me. I'm an entomologist. My wife and I are cyclists. We ride that thing. It's a recumbent tandem trike, and we've been riding it since about 2007, so we have somewhere between 10 and 15,000 miles on it. We do a lot of touring. We take it with us wherever we go. We have to carry it around in a trailer. I've been told that I'm a reasonably well-adjusted entomologist. I'm still trying to figure out if that's a compliment or not. I'll take it as a compliment. I spent 15 years in the ag chemical industry after grad school. I've done biocontrol work. I've looked for insecticides. Donna mentioned our venture into the commercial fruit production business. We live just a mile into Nebraska. I hate to admit that sometimes, but it's where my wife's family's farm is, and we own some property there, and things happened after the end of the ag chemical industry job, and we decided to move back home and let's start growing berries and see how well that works. So we did it for about 8 years. We were profitable for one of those. We broke even for quite a few of them, and several of them we were underneath. That's why it only lasted about 8 years. I've been working for Extension since 2008. I started the pesticide applicator education program coordinator job 2014. I'm responsible for a whole variety of educational programs. We want to extend the growing season. The other thing about me is I like to grow stuff and I like to eat things, right? And I'm guessing that's why you all are here too, because we have a really limited growing season in Wyoming. Why is growing food in Wyoming a disappointing challenge? Or Colorado? Hail. Yes, that's a good one. The wind. That's probably the best one because the wind blows here a lot and frequently and often, right? Okay, so this is what we all hope that our gardens will look like. It's March, right? How many of you have been out working in your gardens or thinking about looking through the seed catalogs? Yeah, seed catalogs start coming in at Thanksgiving time, right? You're like, oh, yeah, I remember this. This looks good. I think I want to try this variety. So you start ordering stuff and getting it in and dreaming about this, okay? Why do we do this? We like to eat. Master gardeners, you can't tell a master gardener that they can't do something. They love the challenge, right? Food for profit, another reason why you might want to extend the season is if you are a producer and you are selling at a farmer's market, if you're the first one there with a particular thing, it's sold, okay? So you can get there early, and it's a personally satisfying thing to do. Gardening, we garden because it's relaxing and frustrating all at the same time. Wyoming challenges. You know, Wyoming has, the West has challenges. Things don't work right? The wind. This is in Cheyenne. I think it's at the NOAA weather station, but it's kind of a fun thing. The wind is really bad. We have this stuff too, right? Hail. How many times does Cheyenne get hit by hail a year? And we don't have little pea-sized hail. We have big animal-killing, car-crashing, destructive hail. If your garden was out there in June and you're like, hey, this is looking great, and one of these storms come through, well, I guess I get to start all over again. Has it happened? More than once? Will you ever learn? There's a hail belt that occurs through the Midwest of the United States. The little numbers are occurrences of hail. Average number of hail occurrences in Cheyenne, 8. You nailed it, right on the nose. How many of you are familiar with LaGrange? It's up that way a little bit. They're the center. They are the epicenter of Wyoming for hail. And I think the number is 15 times a year. Hail is very challenging for us. Highly variable spring and fall temperatures. What's the temperature going to be today? 40-something, right? That's spring. Yesterday was snow. You know, It's going to be 70 sometime next week. I'm like, oh, I got to get out and plant the garden. Not yet. Hold your horses. Things change, and they change a lot. And it's not necessarily springtime. It's July. And when's Frontier Days? You always have crappy weather during Cheyenne Frontier Days. Always. It's a guarantee. Some challenges, right? The wind, hail, highly variable spring temperatures. And I love this one, non-consecutive growing days, right? So a couple years ago where I live, spring was looking really good. Got about to the end of June and there was a freeze and all the corn was destroyed. Those types of things happen. So how do we protect from that type of stuff? Yeah, and often all of these things happen all at once. How do we extend the season? Anything that you can do to protect your plants early or late, you are giving them the opportunity to grow more, and that is extending your season, okay? Permanent structures, the arboretum is a permanent structure, right? But it's very costly to run. They're costly to build. And if we live in a hail zone and it's made out of glass or almost any other thing, it's going to be costly to maintain. Most normal people don't have the ability to buy and operate a greenhouse. This is kind of a transitional, little more cost-effective. But there's a gentleman, his name is Russ Finch. Is Russ still living? Passed away last November. I did not meet him until he was in his 80s. He had a program that was called Citrus in the Snow. He's near Alliance. He was Greenhouse in the Snow, yes, thank you. It's an awesome place. I toured it 3 times. But he was actually producing citrus to sell at the farmer's market in Alliance. It's just, it's an incredible story, but Kirsty will probably tell more. His operation costs were $50 a month. That's not bad. The initial investment was about $20 a square foot to build one of these things. If you have the space, it's a really good way to go. Passive season extenders, and this is where I have more of my experience with. These are structures that require no additional energy inputs. There's no heating, there's no cooling. Okay, you're not paying for energy to do those things. They can protect the crops from our highly variable conditions. They allow us to plant earlier and harvest later. Me personally, I have a hoop house. First day of spring, I'm out there planting stuff because my soil temperatures are perfect. I can get stuff in the ground and they'll start growing. I'm not planting tomatoes the first day of spring, but I'm planting the appropriate crops that will grow. Things like spinach, cole crops, those types of things. So believe it or not, passive structures in Wyoming can allow for year-round production. It takes some things that you have to do on your end, but it can be done. When I was a kid, my grandma would, and my mother too, like, oh crap, it's gonna freeze. Go grab the blankets. How many of y'all have done this? Go cover stuff, right? Go cover it up. Problem with this is the wind. You get out, you go out and cover stuff, and it might not be covered by the time you get there in the morning. There's some other things out there. Walls of water, hot caps. Hot caps are these little paper things. If you're not familiar with them, they're cheap. You put them over your cole crops that you've planted, the little seedlings, put a little dirt around them, and it's enough to prevent frost damage, and they grow really well inside of them. Let's talk about the walls of water first. How many of you have ever used them? Are you happy with them? You have a couple cells that go bad, and then the thing starts listing to one side, and yeah. So the sailor caps actually use a wire frame that you fill a bag of water up, and then you drop it over the top of this wire frame. And it's a single-use product, except for the frame, and it seems to work just a little bit better for me. Particularly if you are gardening outside in a windy area, you don't have to support walls of water. The sailor caps hold up. Some commercially available things, floating row cover. How many of you have ever used this? They don't call it floating row cover for nothing. You really got to anchor it down. It'll blow away just like some of the other stuff. It's a good product because it allows light in, it keeps insects out, and it protects from frost. Low tunnels. Low tunnels are structures that you put over your plants, but they're not tall enough for you to get in and do things under them. Yeah, don't put them up when it's cold. Low tunnels work, but there's a lot of maintenance that goes along with them. You know, in the springtime, they can get really hot really fast. It's a small space, it heats up really quickly, so you've got to be able to be there to vent them. Some semi-permanent options for you, and we call these high tunnels or hoop houses. And probably every master gardener and every person in here is going, how can I get one of these things? Because I've seen or heard that they work really well. They're relatively inexpensive to build. And that was part of our goal through the extension program, was to try to create structures that were inexpensive, held up to Wyoming conditions, and provided that season extension aspect that we needed. The other nice thing about them is that they are entirely scalable. So if you have a small backyard, you don't have to build this massive thing. You can go small. Or if you have acreage, you can go big. So it's just one of those types of things. I spent the first 10 years dabbling in hoop houses and high tunnels, and then I've moved on to geodesic domes. And I got to tell you, the domes, I think, are the way to go. We're going to talk hoop houses first. They can get really hot in the summertime. So just like a low tunnel, you're going to have to figure out how to vent them. So in the shoulder seasons, and I'm talking March, April, May. Probably not March. You'll probably leave the sides down and you'll just let them cook and do their thing. But starting about mid-April, it can tend to get really hot. So if it's 70 degrees outside, it can be 140 in these things in about 20 minutes. They warm up really fast. You can manually vent them by putting roll-up sides on them. And so during the day, you open them up. Nighttime, you roll it back down. And then as the season progresses, you roll them up and leave them up so that you're getting airflow through there. You're allowing those types of things to grow, pass, whatever. And then in the fall, it's the same thing. So as the season progresses in the fall and you're having those cooling nighttime temperatures, you're going to roll the sides down at night. You'll roll them back up during the day. And then eventually you'll leave them down because the temperature just isn't getting warm enough. But you still could potentially have crops in there and be able to grow. Roll-up sides, solar attic vents. There's a company that we've been working with. It's called Blue Frog Mountain, I think. You can get a solar-powered attic vent that'll move like 2,500 cubic feet of air per minute. And it requires no electricity because it's solar-powered. It's either Frog Mountain or Blue Mountain. I know it's got mountain in the name, something like that. And the website's a little bit strange. You have to do some poking around. But if you do the search and you look for 60-watt solar-powered attic vent or something like that, it'll bring it up. And there's also a degree switch that plugs into that system, and it's at 70 degrees, it'll kick the fan on. Could be Big Frog Mountain. Yeah, not blue, big. I can never remember the name. I always go back to the invoice when I need to order one. So yeah, Big Frog Mountain. So again, protecting the plants in the winter is just as important. You can put low tunnels on the inside of your high tunnel. You know, as the season progresses, you can put these things over the top of your crops. You can put additional blankets. So when we first started doing this in Goshen County, we had a building that we were in. It's supposed to be solar charged. It's southerly facing. It was never designed right. It never functioned like it was supposed to. And in the upper area, they had windows with insulated curtains, shades on them. They were quilted. They were like insulated blankets. Well, over the course of time, those things started to disintegrate, and we took those insulated blankets and actually took them out to the hoop house and used them to cover the crops. Who's familiar with cloches? You should be, yes. They're either glass or plastic or something, but you can just pick it up and set it on top of a plant. Yep. And they're French, aren't they? Yeah. French for hat? I thought that was chapeau. I can't speak French. I can barely speak English. We discussed this already. And then you can also put sailor caps or walls of water around your plants inside of these things too to help extend that season. So there's been a lot of research on hoop houses and high tunnels, but most of it doesn't occur in sunny places like Wyoming. It's in the east. And if you have ever experienced the east, it clouds up in October and it stays cloudy until about April or May. And if you are not able to collect the solar power that we have, they're done. After about 3 or 4 days, the temperature just does not get up as high as it could. If we go through a period of cloudy time and you're not covering your plants, but you know that it's going to get sunny again like it does in Wyoming, you can pull your covers off and let it warm up and do those types of things. But if you get a period of really cold, cloudy weather, those plants will not recover. Seasonal watering. I'm trying to help you understand that, yeah, there might be some initial work that you have to do with these kind of structures, but you can get to a point where you automate all of this stuff, except for rolling up the sides and those types of things. If you've got a frost-free hydrant inside of one of these and you put a timer on that and you have a drip system in place, you don't have to go in there and water, but you do have to go in and check plants and maybe pull weeds and those types of things. But everybody says, well, how much work is one of these things? I'm trying to express that it's really not that much. There's a little more in the shoulder seasons. It works really well. Planting dates. I mentioned this. It's location dependent, right? Goshen County, I'm pretty much planting things by the first day of spring. And it's going to be location and crop dependent. So anytime the soil temperature is above 40 degrees Fahrenheit, you can start planting stuff. And it's going to be those coal crops to start with. And I can get my sweet corn in by the first week of April in my high tunnel. Don't shake your head. My goal is to have sweet corn by the 4th of July. I've yet to do it. But it depends on the variety I've got. So I've got a 100-day sweet corn that I really like. I have sweet corn by July 9th. So I'm really close. This thing right here, that's my soil temperature probe, right there. I leave it in there all year round, so I know what the soil temperature is. But usually by the 1st of March or the 20th of March, we're good to go. There's planting date charts available all over the place. You know, beets, carrots, lettuce. Oh, spinach, look at spinach and lettuce. Those types of things would be the first things that are in. You can also plant, it would be second cropping to me. You can plant in August for things that you're trying to get to produce later in the fall for a second crop. Why are there not peas on there? I'm guessing that the farm homestead people are biased against peas.
They don't like them greens.
Yeah. People have biases, right? Okay, so comments on temperature. The internal nighttime temperature will be the same as the outside temperature. That's why you have to cover things later on in the season. But as soon as the sun comes up, it's heating up, it's really nice in there, and things start growing again. And we've talked about this, production killers, multiple cloudy days in succession. If you have a week of really cloudy, cold, crappy weather, you're probably done, maybe. How late in the season can we really go? This is observational-based data. This is not scientific research. These are just things that I've experienced as we've done work with these things. Gillette, elevation 4,500 feet, October 6th. How many of you guys are still growing in Cheyenne in October without a structure? Maybe. Depends on where it's at, right? If it's protected somehow. So that's inside a hoop house. Still growing tomatoes. You know, that was a while ago. That was 15 years ago. I do not recall when they stopped producing in Gillette. To be able to go until October, you know, that's significant. You know, there were just things going on in that hoop house. So let's continue on. November. We're definitely done growing outside usually in November. That's what it looked like outside. Everything's pretty much done. The inside temperature was 48 degrees and 70% relative humidity. This particular structure was 20 by 70, and it had a 13-foot center height. So it's a pretty good sized structure. And it was built at the extension office there. There's still green stuff in November. And what we're doing is at night, we're going out and we're covering things up, and in the morning we're pulling the covers off. This is the inside germinator. He just built a low tunnel that you could put on the inside on top of the raised bed. And want to point out, it's November and I've got things germinating in there. Got a second crop going. Here's your peas. Peas in November, fresh peas at Thanksgiving that you've grown in your garden. For those of you who like beets, I'm beet biased. I hate beets. You can't hide a beet in something that I can eat and I won't be able to detect it. So this is my hand. This is the leaf on the green beans. So the weird thing that happens is as you get into the fall, we have less light. So what happens to these plants is they like compensate by producing larger leaves so that they can collect more light. The greens are a more concentrated green color. So I can't tell you that they're healthier, but I can tell you that they are a different color. Green beans in November. That's a little weird. Root crops do really well in fall season production. Carrots, turnips, parsnips, December. Nobody's growing anything in a garden outside in December. Look at the crops in the germinator. Looking great. Not edible yet, but they're coming along. Okay? Peas are still blooming. And I'm out there at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's 62 degrees and 60% humidity. First part of December. It's entirely passive. Just absorbing heat from the light that's there. Broccoli. You can have fresh broccoli at Christmas. Things grow. They're a little bit different. They're not going to be as productive as they are in the summertime, but you still have access to fresh vegetables. Greens are looking a little tough, but if you're really hankering for a salad, you could have some. You could pick through that and figure it out. Spinach, Swiss chard, peas, radishes, turnips, broccoli in December. Let's jump to January. What's going on in January? It's 68 degrees, 33% humidity in the middle of the afternoon. We had to dig our way into the hoop house because there's a drift in front of it. And, you know, things are looking a little tough, but they're still growing. That's the important thing. The other thing, too, in the wintertime, you rarely have to water because the plants are not using water like they would on a normally hot day. So you might only have to water once a month. Yeah, things are looking a little tough, but there's still broccoli, still radishes, still, are those parsnips or they're parsnips, right? Ice crystals over here. Yeah. This stuff?
No, on the turnip itself.
That's a leaf that has senesced. The germinator's looking fantastic in January. Getting ready for that spring green crop. I'd harvest that. I would eat that. More recently, let me explain what happened to the things in Torrington that year that we were looking at them. So about January, the aphids started to reproduce. And by February, we needed to pull everything and clean it up. Okay? So that's a problem that you may have. You can overwinter your greens. So this is my hoop house. That's my cloche that I use to cover my greens. In February, we had our first salad. In our space where we have, in February, you can have 1 cutting. March, you might be able to have 2. April, you might be able to have 3. So the production starts picking up again. Yeah, greens in March. I also have things in my hoop house like strawberries, which people don't necessarily think of. The cool thing about strawberries is that these are June-bearing varieties. In the hoop house, we are eating strawberries by the middle of May. They just start doing what they need to do. They are ready to go and they're producing. Yeah, look, we're springtime. It's 90 degrees in the hoop house. The raspberries are growing. I have raspberries also. So again, I want to emphasize this, that if you're growing over the course of the winter, the outside nighttime temperature is what the temperature on the inside of the structure will be. If you have sensitive crops, you will have to do a little more work to keep them covered and keep them going. And it's really important to be able to capture the heat, the radiant energy from the sun during the day, and then at nighttime, trap that. If the soil's warmed up, trap it with a blanket, those types of things. Some other research projects that we did. This was at the Laramie's Acres Student Farm. We took a look at single skin over a hoop house, double skinning it, insulated soil base. So around the base of the structure, we dug down 2 feet, which is not an easy thing to do at Acres Farm, and put in 2-inch closed foam insulation all the way around it. And then we also tried the black water barrel version of it on the north side in one of them. And by far, the double skin version worked the best because it moderated the temperature. There was less significant fluctuations between peak highs and peak lows. Okay, you had that R value of that 2 layers of plastic. Some other things to keep things alive. I've had people, over the course of the years, I've had people go, well, couldn't you do something else? Sure. I've got a guy up in, I believe it's in Sundance. He put radiant heat in underneath his beds, put in a system, keeps them warm. Like, great. He's productive almost year round. Propane heaters and wood stoves. Propane heaters give off what? Carbon monoxide and water. If you're on the inside of a structure, you really build up your humidity. Wood stove is also an option. maybe. Pest issues. You will have them. I guarantee that you will have pest issues. Arthropods and rodents. Rodents love these structures. I have to go out and start putting out a baiting program in my hoop house every year. What do you bait them with? Bait. Rodent bait in a bait station? No, I use the stuff that you can get at Baumgar's. The first and second generation stuff. The potent stuff. Why, do you have a rodent problem in yours? Snap traps work really well too. These things will happen, so the important thing is to plan accordingly and respond quickly. Aphids are going to show up. I perpetually have a spider mite issue in my raspberries every year. It seems like up until the middle of July, everything's looking good. The third week of July, I have a meeting that I go to every year, and when I get back, they've totally taken over the patch. You know, there's just things we have to do. Rodents, anybody know what that is? It's a pack rat. I've got a couple in encampment that I've been working with over the years. I helped them build a hoop house, and then the snow crushed their hoop house after about 10 years, and then I helped them build a geodesic dome. I get an annual phone call from them, just wanting to talk about anything. She called me up one day and she goes, Jeff, I got something eating it's standing in the top of my broccoli and it's eating the broccoli head out of it. What is it? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea what it is. So I said, do you have a trail cam? Oh yeah, we got one of those. I said, put it up in your hoop house and send me the photos. So she sent me this really fuzzy, grainy image. And my first thought was, well, that's a kangaroo. But knowing where we live, that's like not possible. So I started doing some research and it was one of these guys. I do not know what they did to control it. I didn't ask, but at least we were able to identify what the problem was. Simple structures can be utilized to extend Wyoming's growing season, as you have seen and as you have experienced. They can help feed your family. They can increase the marketability of those things if you're trying to bring things to market. Provide an alternate income for many producers. One thing that I don't think I have on this list is they can be extremely therapeutic because things are kind of cold and crappy, but if you walk outside in one of these and the temperature's 90 degrees, it's a great place to work. And you can work in them when the wind's blowing. So we have 1 minute or less to answer questions. Yes, sir, Bill. Bill is asking if you put an attic fan in one of these structures, do you actually need to have another vent open in order to allow the proper amount of airflow? Yes. Yes, or to circulate the air. The answer is yes, or I would recommend it. And there are vents that you can purchase that also have a 70-degree temperature sensor in them so that when the fan kicks on, the vent also opens up, or the vent opens up. And so I'm not supposed to have any biases working for the University of Wyoming. So I'm covering my badge of honor here. Farm Tech. And they are aluminum louvers. And they also have it's not a shock, but they have an opener that is filled with wax that when it hits 70 degrees, it pushes the plunger and then that opens the vent. Yes, 6 mil. It's a woven polyethylene. It has a puncture strength of 82 pounds per square inch. So it's very hail tolerant. I can give you the supplier information if you would like that too. It's JM Industries out of Ponchatoula, Louisiana. We have worked with many different suppliers. There are several that I would maybe suggest. There are others that I would tell you do not use. The thing about folks in Ponchatoula, they warrant their product a year for every mil of thickness. And I've gotten 12 years out of a 6 mil product. Yes, ma'am. What is the millimeter thickness of the plastic used on the hoop house? And it's 6 mil. Yes. Well, if you have roll-up sides and you've rolled up the sides, the bees will get in and out. Okay? On the geodesic domes I've been building, I've been putting a window screening on things, and pollination does not seem to be a problem. When I do a workshop, I tell people we're not building piano. It's not completely sealed up, and so people might open the door and leave the door open. So there's just different things that you can do to help promote pollinators. I'm being yanked off the stage. You have your way to connect with me. Thank you.